Hi and welcome. My name is Jaqueline Vlietstra, and I'm here with a yoga practice that we're calling Yoga for Uncertain Times. And it's going out to the St. Thomas community from the Center for Wellbeing. And the yoga practice for today is one that I hope will help you just have some extra skill and some extra space to deal with the unique and very real stressors of the coronavirus pandemic. I want to acknowledge that everybody coming to this yoga video is going to have a different experience. And because we're not together in the same room, I really want to invite you to do what works for you, as much or as little as feels appropriate and welcome in your own body, and to know that everything I offer here is really just a suggestion, and it's for you to decide what feels like appropriate choices in your own practice. So think of what I offer as just ideas for what you might do, for ways that you can come into your body, come into the present moment, and ways that you can just work with stress and anxiety that might have been more prevalent since the pandemic started. I also know that many of us are sitting a lot more than we normally would. We're spending a lot more time in front of our computers, so I want to pay special attention to the neck, the shoulders, the upper back, the upper chest, areas that might start to feel locked down and really extra tense, both as a result of all of the extra time spent on our devices, but also as a result of stress and tension, which for a lot of people lodge in this area. So with that said, let's get started, and just remember that there is never anything gained by doing a yoga practice or a yoga pose that feels painful. So if anything hurts, back off, stop, pause. You can always take rests and even pause the video if you need to. So we're going to start by finding a comfortable seat. And for some people that might be sitting on a chair or a stool. For others it might be sitting on the floor. I am sitting on a stool, so I have my feet on the ground. But if you are choosing to sit on the floor or maybe on a soft surface like a bed or a couch, then just notice what kind of support do you have behind you, if any? Does it feel good to be supported? But can you support yourself with some ease? So thinking about leaning back against a wall or leaning back against cushions, and take your time to get yourself set up. If you're sitting on the floor, if you do have a yoga mat today, which you don't need for this practice, but if you have one, then maybe consider sitting on a folded blanket or maybe a cushion or a pillow. That can help bring more ease into your lower back, more ease into your hips if your hips feel tight. And we'll start our yoga practice today with some centering. And centering is just a way to kind of bring yourself into the present moment, bring yourself into your body, and think of everything we do as just a little invitation to sort of dip your toe into the shallow end. So if you're a really experienced yoga practitioner, if you've done a lot of work with meditation or mindfulness practices, then this might feel really easy or welcoming, or kind of like you're coming home to a practice that already resonates for you. But if it feels like if this is something really new and if it feels strange or uncomfortable, just dip your toe in and know that you can always step back out. So you could just opt in or opt out for everything we do here. So start by orienting to your senses by looking around your space and noticing 3 things that you can see. Just look around, notice any judgments, but really you're just orienting to what can you see in this moment. And then if it feels okay to let your eyes close, you could let your eyes close, or if it doesn't, then you might let your gaze rest softly in a neutral spot in front of you. And notice, what are two things that you can hear in this moment? They could be within your space, they could be coming from outside. Just notice what you hear. And then invite yourself to notice one thing that you can touch. Notice how this thing feels. What is the texture against your fingers or against your hands? So orienting your senses is a really nice kind of low stakes way to drop yourself into the present moment. So if you find that you're really stressing and your mind is kind of racing, it's a really nice practice that can be used anytime, anywhere. So I encourage you to kind of tuck this one away, and you can come back to it later if you like. And you might stay with the senses right now if that feels best. But if it feels okay to kind of move a little further inward and start to notice your internal experience, just check in with your body. And notice, without that overlay of judgment or analysis or any kind of story, just notice, where do you feel tension or stress in your body? Just with a true sense of curiosity, of open wondering, where is the tension? How does it feel? You may have certain spots that you're aware of, but sometimes tension can kind of smuggle in other areas that you didn't even know about before. So just kind of scanning head to toe and noticing, where is tension today, without needing it to go away. And then noticing also, are there any places where you feel a sense of ease or support or connection to the ground or to your chair? Or even places where you feel neutral. So we want to take both of those in, that you can have both comfort and discomfort in your body at the same time. We tend to notice the discomfort more, but notice all of it with a neutral, curious observation. And then notice what's happening in your emotions and in your thoughts. And again, we're going to invite that awareness to be very curious and very neutral. So even if what you're noticing are pretty uncomfortable emotions or racing or stressed out thoughts, can you simply notice what's there and acknowledge it? Just recognize what you're finding and allow it to be just as it is, without needing to push it away, without needing to create any kind of story around it. Just notice what you notice. Let it be. And then see if it feels welcome to tune into your breath. And breath is a wonderful way to sort of come into the present moment within your own body. It's a bridge between your mind and your body. It's something that happens automatically, but also something that you can control. And at first, the invitation is just to notice it without needing to change it, without needing to control it. But just notice that you are breathing in and out. And if it does not feel welcome for any reason to tune into your breath, then you might back out of that practice and come back to your senses. Spend a little more time exploring what you can see, hear, and touch. So that's always an option. And if it feels okay to kind of have that awareness shifting to your breath, maybe see if it feels at all welcome to breathe in and out through your nose, if that's not happening already. If you need to breathe in and out through your mouth, that's okay. If it feels okay, just softly in and out through the nose. And we'll do just a very simple breathing practice where we'll inhale through the nose, And then we'll take a nice slow exhale out through the mouth now, blowing out through your mouth like you're blowing out through a straw. So we'll inhale together. And then exhale, blow. A couple more times like that. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. Last one on your own. Pause here. Just check in with yourself. Notice what you notice. That straw breathing practice where you're sending out your exhales through pursed lips is constricting and lengthening the exhales. And anytime we're focusing on lengthening out the exhales, that can be a really calming practice. It's not always the same for everybody, so you'll have to try it for yourself and see how that works. But that is an option for a really nice, accessible breathing technique that you can kind of just use on your own as you need it. So whenever you notice needing just to pause and settle, if that resonated for you just now, just slowly inhale through your nose and then out through your mouth. So from here, let's start in with some of our movements. And we're going to start really simple. And so we'll bring some awareness to the shoulders and start to roll the shoulders. And you can notice, and we'll play around a lot with sensation and notice whether more sensation or less sensation feels welcome in your body. You can make these circles as big or small as you like. And maybe you stay with the shoulder circles, or maybe it feels welcome to explore placing your hands on your shoulders and making some circles with your elbows. You can notice how the sensation will feel different. Kind of moves down into the armpits, across the chest, into the upper arms. And then maybe come back to your shoulder circles and notice what you notice here again. And let your shoulders soften and settle. Now, gently with your chin level, so your head is not lifted, your chin is not tucked, but your chin feels kind of level. Go ahead and gently turn your head to the side. Keeping your chin level, bring your head back to center. And gently turn it the other way. And with really slow movement and really gentle awareness, can you simply move back and forth so you're kind of shaking your head no in slow motion. And as you do that, notice what you're finding in your neck. Does this feel good? Does it want to be bigger or smaller? Are you encountering places that feel kind of sticky or resistant? And coming back to center when you feel ready, finishing up your last round, taking your time. One thing I want you to take away from this practice is that taking time for yourself or practicing self-care is absolutely not a luxury. So however you are able to care for yourself, whether it's yoga, whether it's getting outside and taking a walk, whether it's gardening or spending time with someone you care about, either in person or over Zoom, these are things that are essential to our well-being. And the more we can take care of ourselves, the more we can bring that sense of really being grounded to all of our interactions with other people, as well as our interaction with ourselves. So it's something that kind of has this ripple effect outward. the more we can take care of ourselves, the more we can also relate well to everyone else we encounter, both virtually and in person. So go ahead now and see if it feels welcome to take some circles with your head. And if it doesn't, then you could always just go back to a different movement, either the one we already did or something else entirely. Just let my suggestions be a starting point for you to explore what feels welcome in your own body. Switching sides if you like. Notice if there are any creaky spots, if there are any spots that really are welcoming this movement. Take your time, a couple more circles here. And then come back to center. Invite your elbows to bend and take your palms to face up. And we're going to draw the elbows and the whole arms back toward the wall behind you. And notice how that's creating a stretch or an opening across the front side of the chest and shoulders. And then we're going to press the hands forward and feel the front side close off and feel the upper back and upper shoulders round and open up a little bit. And if it feels welcome, you might link this movement to your breath. So inhaling back and exhaling forward if you like. And again, get curious. Does this feel good? Does it want to maybe be really subtle and small, or does it want to be more expansive? If you've been sitting a lot, if you've been on your computer a lot, then this might just be bringing awareness to some places that have gotten pretty battened down. So just notice what you feel might be ease and relief, or it might be a kind of, oh, wow, there's a lot of tension there. Last one. Good, and then bring your hands together in front of you, palms touching. This is known as hands at heart center. So heart center in yoga is right here behind the breastbone. So we want to take the hands to heart center, elbows out to the sides. We're going to do a very gentle spinal twist, keeping your chin lined up over your fingertips. And then back to center, twisting to the other side. Just to your comfortable range of motion, and back to center. Twist to the right, or wherever you started actually, wherever your first side is, back to the first side, and center. And then to the other side, and center. Take 2 more rounds like this if it feels good to you. Twists tend to help us ground. Any kind of twisting pose is considered a grounding pose. And you might imagine as you're twisting side to side that stress or tension are gently wringing out from your body and your mind, just like water from a sponge. Maybe even take one more here like this if you like, or come back to center and pause. So choose for yourself what feels welcome. Good. Coming back to center, take your hands to your knees. And now we're going to build on. So remember with this movement, we were rounding and arching the upper back, right? So if I turn sideways, you'll see my shoulders are rounding forward and then my spine is arching, and it's mostly in the upper back. But if I take my hands to my knees, I'll adjust my screen a little bit so you can see me better. Then if I tuck the tail and round the shoulders forward, then my whole spine turns into a kind of a C shape, and I'll keep my head forward so you can see with a neutral neck. And then arching, maybe the chin lifts. So this is building on what we've already done before, and you get to do it to your comfort, seeing what really feels like it is a good, helpful movement and never causing you to feel pain. And I want to show you that there's another way you can do this, which is to do it on the floor. So if you have a yoga mat, great. If you don't have a yoga mat, that's okay. You could kneel on a blanket or on a rug, and you're going to take your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. And that same movement, we can start with tucking the tail and rounding the spine toward the ceiling. Let the head drop. And then coming back through neutral and arching. Gaze lifts slightly. And your movement could be really subtle, or it could be bigger than what I'm doing. So just choose what works in your body. If you do have pain in your wrists, you might come up onto your knuckles, make a fist shape with your hands. And that takes the strain out of the wrists. Another option can be to come down to your forearms, and this can be a nice option, especially if you have something to prop up underneath your arms to lift you up a little higher, but it also works on the ground. And just coming back to a neutral spine, whether you're sitting in the chair or whether you're in tabletop pose, which is hands and knees, and then go ahead and give yourself the option to shift back into some variation of child's pose. So what I'm going to show you here first is traditional child's pose. Notice my hips are resting back towards my heels, and then my upper body is rounding forward and releasing, and my chest is actually resting on my legs, so is my stomach. And my head is down on the floor, and my arms, you can either have your arms alongside you or you can have your arms out in front. It just depends what feels best. So this is one version of child's pose. There are lots and lots of ways to support yourself in making this a comfortable option. So I'm going to just grab my blanket and my yoga block. If you don't have a block, a textbook is a really nice option. So one option is to place your textbook or your block underneath your forehead. Or if you don't have that, you could even stack your fists one on top of the other and place your head on your fists. So you don't want your head to be hanging. So just find the right height. Anything, you can even use a pillow here. And that is one option. One other thing to consider is that your knees can be together or apart. So I was showing you the original version with knees together, but that's gonna create a lot of compression. So if you have, if you're feeling like that's just too much pressure on your belly or your chest, you can let your knees come apart, and you can rest your torso in between your legs. And if you have a blanket or a cushion, you can come forward and rest over on top of the blanket or cushion to support you. So that can be a really nice option. Another thing to consider is placing your blanket, or you could even use a towel, on the backs of your ankles, and then resting back if your hips are kind of not comfortably coming to your heels. So that's another option. One more option I want to show you is that you can do this seated. So if you're sitting on a chair or on the floor, you can hug your knees in, and your knees can be together, or your knees can be apart. So that's an option, and you could even put a little support behind you. Or last option is you could have two chairs, and you could actually sit on one chair and put something on your lap, a folded blanket or a pillow, and rest forward and place your forehead, your hands, stack your hands and place your forehead on the seat of another chair. So these are some options for finding child's pose, which is considered a pose that can really help you settle and ground. If none of these worked for you for any reason, if you have issues with your hips, your knees, your shoulders, and it felt like it was just not working for you, seated mountain pose, sitting with a real sense of rooting into the floor, connecting to that support. You can sit with support behind you, or you can sit upright. So coming back to our tabletop, and that could be seated on your chair. It could be hands on a chair in front of you, or it could be hands and knees on the ground. Go ahead and come back up if you like, and stretch your torso from side to side now. So we'll start by taking the right hip out to this right, and the right shoulder back out to toward the hip, and shortening that right side, lengthening the left side. And then coming back through neutral and making that same stretch on the other side, and just sort of gently coming back and forth. You can think about like a wagging your tail here, if that's a helpful image. You're just bringing that sense of shortening one side while you lengthen the other. And let that be a starting point. Maybe the shoulder movement is not as helpful as just rocking the hip side to side. So that rocking could be a really nice option. Or maybe you start with rocking, but you end up making some kind of circles or even a figure 8 with your hips. So you can just start to get really curious about what kind of movements really kind of feel like they're bringing some welcome sensation into your body, in particular into your torso, your sides of your torso, and your hips and shoulders. And maybe you're ready to pause, and if you are, you might come back into whatever version of child's pose you settled on the last time. And if you still haven't found any version of child's pose you like, then come back to seated mountain pose. Either way, just pause here and find your breath. Take a little rest here. Notice what you notice. Notice that when you're rounded forward, you might bring a little bit more awareness to breathing into your back body, the back side of your torso. You might notice again, what can you hear? You might also notice, where are your thoughts right now? So maybe you've been really present during this practice. Maybe you've been really aware of what's happening in your internal experience, or maybe your thoughts have just been elsewhere. Maybe you've been thinking about your to-do list, or about something that you are maybe remembering or anxious about in the future. Can you simply acknowledge those thoughts without making them go away, but just letting them be? Can you let them be, allow them to be exactly as they are, but simply ungrasp them with your attention? So you're kind of just withdrawing your attention. So those thoughts are still out there. It's okay. You don't need to do anything about them, but you're withdrawing your attention and bringing it back to some aspect of your yoga practice. So that might be the breath, that may be the sensation or the movement, or it might even just be the sound of my voice. Anything that can kind of bring you back to the present. And you want to do that with patience. You might have to do that again and again and again. And that's okay. This practice is not about creating a blank slate in your mind. This practice is about meeting yourself where you are with compassion and kindness, helping yourself to be as present as you can. So from here, we're going to move into some standing poses, and I want to invite you to come up in any way you like. One option can be to come up through ragdoll pose, which is a forward fold, and forward folds also tend to be grounding poses, and I'll show you a couple options here. So if you're coming up from child's pose, you can come up to hands and knees. You can tuck your toes and walk your hands towards your feet. And one option is to take your hands or your forearms to the seat of a chair. And that's going to give you some really nice support in your forward fold. That's going to create, especially if you have any kind of back pain, that's a really great option to give you that support so that you're not placing too high a load on your back. So you can even, you don't have to come all the way forward. Your forward fold could be with your arms extended and almost like a tabletop on the chair. Or if you are comfortable having a deeper forward fold, but you want some support under your hands, and I highly recommend some kind of support under your hands. So you're kind of creating a closed loop here, which is more grounding and more supportive. You might place your hands on a textbook, or if you have a yoga block, or even you could place your hands on a cushion. And let your knees have a little bend in them. You'll notice mine are quite generously bent, and I'm hinged at the hips, and then my upper body is kind of just melting forward. So there's really this sense of releasing the upper body into gravity. Let your head be really heavy. Let there be a sense of effort in your legs, so your legs are strong, but your upper body is feeling a sense of ease, a sense of letting go into gravity, toward the earth. You can think of your spine like a string of beads, just each one kind of releasing down toward the floor, each vertebra. Take a couple more breaths here if this feels welcome. If you're feeling done with it, you can always come up sooner. But if it feels good, you could even explore for the last couple of breaths any amount of movement, either rocking or swaying, or even a little bit of bouncing if that feels welcome. So just noticing your own desire for movement or stillness in this moment. And when you feel ready, press your hands into bent knees or into the seat of the chair if you're using a chair. And pause here, and you'll see I have a long spine and I'm hinging at the hips. And that's when I'm going to come up to standing with a long spine. And let the knees straighten. And just take a moment to kick your legs. Arch your feet. Shake your hands. And then swing your arms out to the sides and let them cross in front of you. And this could be really slow and gentle, or it could be a more vigorous movement. And you might stay with this, or you could experiment with bringing a twist into your arm swinging. So maybe let your arms swing side to side. You might need your feet a little bit further apart, and this could become a whole body movement. So you can see I'm shifting from foot to foot, and the knee is bending with the twist to the opposite direction. And remember what we talked about earlier with twists, that they are considered grounding. So you might just notice, is there any ability for you to just feel that this twist side to side is just letting go of some stress that you're ready to release from your body or from your mind, without any kind of agenda, but just, does anything feel like it's ready to release? And you can imagine that your stress and tension is releasing down into the earth. And that the earth is supporting you. And that all of that tension that's releasing down into the earth is just sort of sinking down and away from you. And then go ahead and come back to stillness. And notice with your arms hanging down by your sides and your knees are kind of unlocked. So just put a tiny, tiny invisible bend in your knees. Can you really feel your feet on the ground? Now, another option here is to sit on a chair. So you can also do mountain pose, and we're going to move into some sun salutations in a moment. But you can do those seated or standing. So I'm going to demonstrate them seated, or excuse me, I'm going to demonstrate them standing. But know that the chair is an option as well. And we're going to start, though, by finding mountain pose in a standing position or on your chair. And I want you to really just invite as much awareness as you can to feeling your feet on the ground, as though you are making pretty deep footprints in your floor. And you can really feel your feet anchor to the earth. Feel that sense of connecting through the sole of each foot into the floor. And then feel the ankles rest down into your feet. So you can imagine that your ankles, your feet are nice and heavy, and then your ankles just got a little heavier into your feet. And then all the bones of your legs resting down into your ankles. And then your entire pelvis, your hips, your pelvis, all resting down, down into your legs, your ankles, your feet, and down into the earth. So pause here and feel a sense. Sometimes for me, it's helpful to imagine that my lower body is filled with sand, and it just got heavier, and it's sort of sinking and rooted down into the ground. Or if imagery is helpful to you, you might imagine that your lower body is like the trunk and the root system of a beautiful, strong tree. And you can sort of feel yourself anchoring to the ground, just like a tree anchors down into the earth with its system of roots. And maybe even visualize that you have roots that are growing out through your feet, down into the earth, supporting you, nurturing you, helping you to feel stable and grounded. And at the same time that you're inviting this rooted sense in your lower body, can you invite a sense of spaciousness into your upper body? So you could think of your upper body like the branches of the trees. And you could even think of the very top of your head as the top of the tree that is growing toward the sun. So you have, and you don't want to make this a rigid stance. You want to just have it be really spacious and open. So if you start to feel stiff in your upper body, then go ahead and soften. Sort of see if there's any sense of being able to relax and just have this sense of openness and lift in your upper body. Top of this beautiful tree growing toward the sun. And then the lower body is rooted, strong and stable. So I want to just bring you back to the idea of practices that you can take with you from today's sequence. And mountain pose is a wonderful grounding option. And what I love about it is you can do it anywhere. Nobody knows you're doing any kind of yoga, you're just standing. But the way you're standing with such really deep internal awareness and connection to the earth makes this a really powerful grounding pose. Something that you can take with you. And then invite your hands back to heart center, palms gently touching. We're going to move through some sun salutations together, and I'll talk you slowly through the first one with options, and then we'll move through them one breath per movement. So that's kind of the trick of a sun salutation, and there are lots and lots of ways to do sun salutations. This one's super gentle, but what makes them unique is the way we link breath and movement. And you always want to think about the breath being the leader and the movement following. So I'm going to turn sideways so you can see what I'm doing with my spine for this first round. So we'll start with hands together at heart center, feet about shoulder distance apart, knees are unlocked. And we'll inhale to sweep the arms. And the arms are going to come down and out to the sides if that feels okay in your shoulders. If it feels right to you, you might take your arms overhead. That's how I'm going to demonstrate it. But know that you could always take your arms lower. And then we're going to exhale, hands back through heart center and hinge forward at the hips. So notice how my spine is staying long. What I often see is people bending at the waist or rounding their spine as they come forward, which can place a lot of load and strain on the back. So we want to hinge forward, and if you're not sure, you can have a couple of little tests with your hands. One is to kind of place your fingers right where your leg meets your hip joint, and just notice, are you feeling your fingers get kind of pinched as you hinge forward? Another way to kind of check in is to take your hand, one or both hands, to your lower back and just notice, does that feel like it's staying neutral, or do you notice any rounding or actually any excessive arching? We don't want either. We just really want a neutral spine. So you can think of this as, you know, a really formal bow. You can think of that as you're bowing forward, and that formal hinging forward. And then we're letting our spine round back into that forward fold that we just worked with. And to your comfort. So remember the options. You might come forward on the seat of a chair. You might have your textbook or your yoga block handy. So you just might give yourself the space to only move into this forward fold to the extent that it feels welcome to you. And then we're going to come up and do a halfway lift. So for the halfway lift, you could take your fingertips to whatever's supporting you, or you could even let your arms hang, or you could take your hands to bent knees. So we're going to come back into that extended spine, and then we're going to release one more time into the forward fold to your comfort. And then we'll inhale ourselves, hinging back up to standing, long spine, arms reach again. And then we'll take our hands back to heart center. So that's the sequence. And now we'll go through it one breath per movement, and I'll guide you at the pace of sort of a gentle, slow breath, but know that if it's too fast or too slow, you can always move at your own pace. So we'll inhale, sweep the arms. Gaze can lift if you like. Exhale, hands come through heart center. We'll hinge forward and round. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, long spine, hinge upwards, arms sweep. And exhale, hands to heart center. We're going to do 3 more like this, but you can always stop sooner. Inhale to sweep the arms. Exhale, hands through heart center, hinge forward and round into your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, long spine, arms reach. And exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms sweep. Exhale, hinge forward and round. Oops, lost my. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, fold. Inhale, long spine all the way back up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Last one, or you can always come back to mountain pose. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, long spine, arms reach. Exhale, hands to heart center. Pause here, let your arms come down. Let yourself find mountain pose again. Notice what you notice. So one thing that you could get curious about is, does it feel welcome to place one or both hands on your breastbone as a gesture of kindness, as a way to help yourself maybe settle or ground? So notice what it feels like to have your hands there with very gentle pressure. And then another option can be to cross one arm over the other and hug your hands around the sides of your arms or your shoulders, wherever your hands comfortably grab. So you're kind of pulling in gently so you can feel that sensation of being held. This can also be a really nice gesture of self-compassion, a way to help yourself ground. Good. And then release your arms. One last time. Notice what you notice as you stand here in mountain pose. Once again, feel your feet anchor. You might be complete with your standing practice and be ready to come down to the floor. If you'd like to do one more standing practice, go ahead and take your hands to your hips and anchoring through both feet, gently draw your torso over to the right and stretch the left side long. Come back to center. So only stretch as far as you can. Maintain a sense of moving in with control. So if you feel like you're collapsing, then maybe don't go so far. Coming back to center. So you might stay with your hands on your hips if you want to explore a different sensation. You might grab your left wrist with your right hand and gently draw your arms and your upper body over toward the right, anchoring through both feet. This version will give more sensation, and more isn't necessarily better. So just try them both if you like and see which one feels good to you. Coming back to center, switching your hands and drawing to the left. Good. Coming back to center. So from here, making your way down to a comfortable seat. So again, that might be sitting on your chair. It might be sitting on the floor. I'm going to move on to my chair just because it's easier for you to see me when I'm closer to my screen. So as you get settled in your seated position, find seated mountain pose. Feel your body anchor into the ground, into the chair. Bring your hands together in front of you at heart center one more time. And come back to our seated spinal twist. Keeping your chin lined up over your fingertips for the first couple twists. Noticing if this feels any different than it did when you did this earlier in your practice. And now this time, when you come into your twist, pause here, and then if you like, turn your head a little further. So now you're gazing over your shoulder. Notice how that creates a different sensation. Make sure you're still breathing. Bring your chin back over your fingertips when you're ready, and then slowly unwind your twist. These are great movements, these twists, for helping to bring some more ease and mobility into your body when you've been doing a lot of seated work at your desk. So twisting to the other side gently to your comfortable range of motion. Chin stays level over the fingertips as you pause and breathe here. And then gazing over your shoulder, if that feels welcome in your neck. Noticing the sensation. Breathing here. And then inviting your chin back over your fingertips. And then unwinding your twists. Pausing here. And then considering for the remainder of your practice, we're going to actually come down to the ground. So the invitation is to lie on your back if that feels comfortable. If it doesn't, then you could do the remainder of the practice seated. If you are staying seated in a chair or even like on a couch or a bed, consider, I don't have a second chair here, but consider propping yourself up so that you can sit back against the back of even some pillows or the edge of a couch, and with your knees bent if that feels okay and your feet supported. So you could also do this on 2 chairs, or you can lie back on your blanket, your towel, your yoga mat. So that can be an option too. So if you're lying on the floor, it looks like this with your arms out to the sides and your knees bent and your feet on the ground. And we're going to take a very gentle rocking side to side of the knees. So think of your legs moving like a windshield wiper in slow motion. And maybe the movement stays really, really subtle. Or maybe you notice your body wanting more sensation, a deeper twist. Notice that this is a twist. And maybe, if you like, your head wants to roll to the opposite direction that your knees are moving. So if you take this option, make sure it feels okay in your neck, but notice how this creates more of a full body twist. And you can just observe how that feels. Maybe invite the sense again that this gentle rocking is sort of inviting a sense of wringing out tension, physical stress, mental stress. This is a really nice thing that you can do even as you're getting ready to go to sleep at night. You could just lie back on your bed and take a few minutes or even a few breaths and just let yourself rock side to side, inviting your low back to settle, inviting your whole spine to gently rotate. Bringing your knees back to center, bringing your head back to center. Consider if there's anything you might want to do. One last movement or one last posture. If it resonated for you to cross your arms and hug your arms, that's a nice option. Another nice option to try is to hug your knees in. And you could do that by grabbing the fronts of your knees, grabbing behind your knees, whatever feels most accessible. Everybody is going to feel these things differently. And you could invite a little rocking if you're holding your knees. You just feel your low back kind of settle into the ground. Or if you're crossing one arm over the other and hugging your hands in, just notice that sense of feeling held. Our nervous systems are really wired to need touch, to need comforting touch. And as adults, most of us don't get a whole lot of that nurturing touch. So what's interesting is that you can actually offer that to yourself, and your system will take that in as comfort, even though it's coming from yourself, which is kind of a nice thing to know, that you can offer your own self comforting touch. And then from here, go ahead and get yourself comfortable and settled in for our final few minutes of our practice, which is known as Shavasana. Shavasana is a guided rest. And when we get settled in for Shavasana, the most important thing is to just find the right amount of ease and support in your body. So that might be, if you're lying on your back, that might involve placing a rolled blanket or towel or cushion underneath your knees. It might mean covering up with a blanket. Warmth is grounding, so covering up with a blanket, putting some cozy socks on. Or if lying on your back is not comfortable, maybe considering if you'd like to roll onto one side or lie in a prone position, or even seated in a supported seated position. So lots of ways to find your comfortable spot for this guided rest. It's going to be about 5 minutes that I'm going to kind of talk you through this. So if you need to pause this recording and get some props to get yourself settled and comfortable, feel free to do that. And when you are settled, go ahead and let your eyes close if that feels comfortable. You could always let your gaze rest on the ceiling or wherever is a neutral spot. Otherwise, letting your eyes close and inviting yourself to consciously let go of all of the effort of your yoga practice, all of the doing, all of the thinking and coordinating, and just let your body feel physically supported. And you might notice as you tune into your body and notice where you feel physical support, are there certain areas that are more connected to support than others? The answer is probably yes. So just sort of notice, well, where do you feel connected? Where do you feel supported? And can you notice your mental state now? Just observe without analyzing it, without getting into the story. What's happening with your thoughts and emotions? What, if anything, has shifted for you? Just noticing that without judgment, just observing. Do you feel any different from how you felt when you started your practice? Notice the gentle rise and fall of your breath. Notice if it feels at all welcome to focus on your exhales. As we said in the beginning, focusing on the exhales can be a calming, grounding practice. So if it feels welcome, just pay extra attention without needing to change them. But just pay extra attention to breathing out. Let yourself just be. So even if you've been aware throughout this practice that you've been really active mentally, that you've had emotions that have come and gone, can you, for this one breath, just see if it feels possible to tune into your breath and let everything else just be? Even if you just have one single moment when you get a break from the constant activities of the mind, if you get one moment to just feel your body resting and supported on the ground, and that's a really wonderful opportunity for you. And it's a practice that can grow over time. So if you're someone who has practiced yoga before, then you already know that. But if this is a new experience for you, just know that your ability to be present, your ability to tune in to your body, to acknowledge your thoughts and ungrasp them, those are all skills. And so if today just felt hard and it felt like your mind was all over the place and it really didn't feel so able to be present, that's fine. Then that is really information for you that, okay, maybe I need to just be extra patient with myself. And know that every time you come back to the present moment, you are building a muscle, you're building a skill that skill of present moment mindful awareness. There's no perfecting it. There's only the practice. So take the next moment just to explore that practice on your own. Guiding your own awareness. Notice what you notice. Come back one last time. Give yourself just a moment of gratitude for taking this time for yourself. And consider, is there anything you would like to take with you from this practice? Is there anything you would like to leave behind? Bring some movement back into your body, maybe starting by wiggling your fingers and toes, circling your wrists and ankles, stretching your arms and legs. And then if you're lying on your back, rolling onto one side. Pausing here for one breath. And then gently pushing yourself up into a seated position. And if you like, bring your hands back to heart center. Invite your thumbs towards your forehead to invite compassion for yourself into your thoughts. Invite your thumbs towards your lips to invite compassion for yourself and others into your speech. Invite your thumbs to your breastbone to invite compassion for yourself and others into your actions. Thank you for spending this hour with me, and I wish you all the best.